This episode partially brought to you by Loot Crate.
Damage to her cell membranes is repaired. She should be fine.
What's up, lore masters? In the previous video, we discussed everything leading up to the battle for the Enterprise E. Today, we'll break down the preparations for the attack and when the Borg finally make their move. However, at this point, I can now discuss my problem with the tactics of the Enterprise and Starfleet overall. As I've been alluding to, Starfleet has been preparing for years to combat the Borg. Arguably, multiple ship designs were created to take them on. We know of at least one that was solely designed for that purpose. So it is odd to me that they would create designs for new ships, but not look at better techniques at combating the Borg. We know the Borg are an advanced cybernetic species that can override and assimilate technology as easily as they can people. We also know that there is a multiplier effect. Once you have one Borg on your ship, you're about to fight most of your crew. In order to combat this threat, containment would be absolutely critical. When going into battle with the Borg, there should be protocols that instantly kick into effect. As an example, and just off the top of my head, maybe have security officers stationed at all critical places of the ship. There would be a requirement of constant communication on a time schedule that rotates and changes. While all of this is occurring, multiple security runners would be dispatched from critical system to critical system at varying intervals to confirm everything is fine. They would be required to utilize Jeffries tubes and have strict orders to turn around at the first sign of trouble, and physically report back to the bridge. Regardless of what they see, or even if they think they'd be able to help, it would be their mission to get that information back in person. Also, specialized ordnance should be used to clear sections if necessary. You obviously couldn't do this at vital areas, but strategically placed weapons or bombs would be useful if an infestation was moving too quickly. I'm not saying that this is a perfect plan, and perhaps a military mind can think up something a bit more clever, but my god, at least it's something. You're just assuming that you won't be boarded by the Borg when you're fighting them. That's folly. Anyway, let's start getting into it proper.
Damage to her cell membranes is repaired. She should be fine, but I'd like to run another test on her spinal tissue and find out why it's so hot in here. Now what? Crush her to engineering? Crush her to bridge.
Some people seem to take offense or laugh at the fact that I call Star Trek horror in space, but I mean, more and more, I'm only proven correct. Looking at this scene, there's not a lot to necessarily say on it. It's competently done, and we get to see briefly the Enterprise medical bay. I would say that there was some foreshadowing with the complaint on the temperature, but they left absolutely no time to really let that set in and instantly showed the threat. So...
Come out of war. I need to know exactly what's been happening.
We just lost contact with Deck 16. Communications, internal sensors, everything. I was about to send a security team to investigate.
No. Seal off Deck 16. Post security teams at every access point.
While watching this scene and the battle scenes later, I noticed something that I would have never caught before getting into the industry. There is a slight and distinct movement of the camera that generally only occurs when someone is holding it. A lot of the time, and in current era cinematography, cameras are placed on gimbals or dollies when we're working with major films. This prevents any shaking that occurs from humans. However, after research, it would appear the cinematographer, one Matthew Leonetti, took advantage of this technique. Not always, and specifically it's centered on the Borg, but it's kind of fun that this was a technique used. Analyzing this scene, we can see why. As the camera moves, it gives a first-person point of view in a way, and also makes the shot off kilter, as we see here on the bridge. Part of the camera language of the unsteady cam is telling us that things are going downhill fast. And he's doing it without using a Dutch angle. I mean, I could get into the extensive use of the 50mm lens to the 75mm, but at this point, that's probably a bit too much technical banter. Breaking down the scene proper, they walk onto the bridge, as I've discussed, where Worf turns and addresses them. He stands up and gives the bad news. The bridge has lost communication with Deck 16, and only now he thought to send security. Quaint.
Aye, sir.
Mr. Hawk, before we lost internal sensors, what were the exact environmental conditions in main engineering?
Atmospheric pressure was 2 kilopascals above normal, 92% humidity, 39.1 degrees Celsius.
39.1 degrees Celsius. Like a Borg ship.
So you're telling me that it got up to 102 degrees Fahrenheit and there weren't any major red flags. I know they were working on the systems before, but death starts occurring for humans at 43 degrees Celsius or 111 degrees Fahrenheit. While I'll admit this could somewhat explain why the engineer before was in such a panic to get everything fixed, it doesn't explain why the bridge thought it was another day in the neighborhood until communications and internal sensors went down. Oh yeah, the internal sensors were working. Huh.
They knew their ship was doomed. Our shields were down. Somehow they transported over here without being detected. They'll assimilate the Enterprise, and then Earth.
Yeah, this plan by the Collective makes little sense to me. Why not divide and conquer? Beam down a few Borg into an area they are unlikely to be taken out and start assimilating. Not just assimilate the ship and then move to assimilating Earth. That's just bad tactics. Unless you subscribe to my conspiracy theory. I'm just saying.
Got it, Riker. Enterprise to away team. Respond.
Sir, main control is being rerouted through main engineering. Weapons, shields, propulsion.
Gotta love hitting a blank LCD panel only to have the button sound effects respond as if they're actually active.
Quickly, Mr. Data, lock out the main computer.
I have isolated the main computer with a fractal encryption code. It is highly unlikely the Borg will be able to break it.
The Borg have cut primary power to all decks except 16.
Borg won't stay on deck 16.
At this point, we are off to the races. With the computer locked by Data, we now have to go to war. This is interesting, but honestly leaves a few holes. Both sides should realize that there are shuttles on the Enterprise, which have systems that could be used, including communications, transporters, and weapons. Maybe the lockout extends to the shuttle, but that's highly convenient and shows a forward thinking we never see Starfleet do. Additionally, we know that the Borg can live in the vacuum of space. The Enterprise crew largely can't. Environmental control would be a high priority target for the Borg, destroying it as much as just controlling it. I know some have discussed how maybe the Queen requires the temperature or she can't live in the vacuum of space, but that's a massive weakness, and I'm not sure how the Borg would not compensate for it, honestly. I mean, it doesn't matter because no one will ever bring these options up, which is honestly consistent with continuity because they never bring anything up, but it's something to think about.
Wake up. You're all right. Come on. Wake up. Oh, take it easy. Stay calm. You are all right. Now listen to me. Listen to me. You're gonna be fine. I need you to do as I say. Alyssa, is the EMH program still online? It should be. Take it easy. That's it. That's a girl. I swore I'd never use one of these.
As I've stated of other scenes, this is pretty well acted and produced. Not really a lot to add. Seems very competent and gets Lily set up appropriately. We also have use of the EMH, which is funny, and the scene itself is kind of telling. It is so obvious to me that Star Trek does attempt to daylight as a horror movie. Yeah, it says that it's a science action adventure, but we all know the truth. And because of that, because it's trying to be so many things at once, these little breaks of comedy with the Doctor is funny and a bit of fresh air.
Computer, activate the EMH program.
Please state the nature of the medical emergency.
20 Borg are about to break through that door. We need time to get out of here. Create a diversion.
This isn't part of my program. I'm a doctor, not a doorstop.
Well, do a dance. Tell a story. I don't care. Just give us a few seconds.
According to Starfleet medical research, Borg implants can cause severe skin irritations. Perhaps you'd like an analgesic cream?
Additionally, I know I said I wouldn't get into it much, but one thing to note is that when focused on the humans, the lens is the previously mentioned 50 to 75 millimeters. However, when we are looking from the Borg's point of view, it's not only 13 millimeters, which gives a very distinctly different experience, but the camera also wobbles. It's not a Dutch angle used, but it puts you off and gives a feeling of sickness. Very well done.
Which way? We need to get off this deck. Follow me.
I wanted to get angry at this part, but honestly, these are most likely medical personnel, engineers, and low-level command. They are also running from the Borg they just realized are on their ship. It's a very human mistake to make. However, the security forces under the command of Picard, Worf, and Data are about to take the fight to the Borg. Buckle up, buckaroos. Things are about to get weird.
The lore reloaded. Man, it is a pleasure to finally meet you. Hi, why are you in my house? I'm your agent. You've been paying me for years. Paying you, I can't afford to keep these lights on. I'm having to beg people this month just so I can have electricity. How the hell? Here, I'll even look it up. What the hell? How have you been stealing my money, you son of a bitch? For years. But don't worry, I finally got you a deal with Loot Crate. What, you got me a deal with who exactly? I mean, first off, I don't even know who you are, and it has to be related to my channel before I'll even do anything. Oh yeah? Well, what do you think of this? That, looks like a black box that's already been opened. Hell yeah, it's a crate with all of your favorite stuff. I mean, check this thing out. It's Futurama. I don't think I've ever done anything on Futurama's still a thing? Isn't it great? And it fits so well. I mean, just look at this. It's a Lost in Space mission log. I mean, just check that out. A journal from Lost in Space. You have never watched my channel. Ever, have you? Come on now. I don't have to watch your stuff to steal money from you. Wow, that is exactly what the CBS legal team told me. Right? And here, look at all this stuff. Pretty cool. Oh wow, now this is cool. Battlestar Galactica, Aliens vs. Predators, Firefly. You know, even though I haven't really done a video on all of these, I would be interested in maybe teaming up with it, but I don't know, why would I use this company? Oh, because they offer the largest kickback for every sale that you make, more than you've seen in a while. That's right, folks. Loot Crate, my newest sugar daddy, needs your help. Check the description below and click on the link to get a specialized Loot Crate full of science fiction swag that you are going to love. Not only are you going to get something that you enjoy, but I get a kickback as well. But wait, it doesn't stop there. By entering code UNBOXFUN15, you get a 15% discount. I know, you're welcome. First 200,000 people to click on that will get the discount as well as the cool swag. Make sure that you're one of the in. You don't want to be out. Check the description again below. That is Loot Crate, my newest sugar daddy. I'll see you next time.
First thing they'll do in engineering is establish a collective, a central point from which they can control the hive. The problem is, if we begin firing particle weapons in engineering, there's a risk that we may hit the warp core. I believe our goal should be to puncture one of the plasma coolant tanks. Data.
Excellent idea. Plasma coolant will liquefy organic material on contact.
But the Borg are not entirely organic.
True, but like all cybernetic life forms, they cannot survive without their organic components.
I have ordered all weapons to be set on a rotating modulation. The Borg will adapt quickly. We will be able to fire 12 shots at most.
I want to be absolutely clear here. The ship is lost. Any infestation on a Starfleet vessel should demand an immediate scuttling of that ship. There is no way to guarantee that the vessel can be secured. If you miss even one Borg or one Borg protocol becomes active within the computer, it will spread like a virus. Again. The ship should be detonated from space after ensuring no Borg have beamed down to Earth. Even if you destroy the hive, there is no guarantee you've killed them all based on what we know of the collective. Now I know, there seems to be magic that happens at the end of this movie. I get it. But this is based on what we know now, not what happens at the end. There wasn't a collective hub in engineering at the beginning and Borg still operated, so it makes sense that the lack of one wouldn't kill all the Borg on the ship going forward. But they're not going to go with my logic. Let's take a look at the plan that Picard has, and it's Fair enough. I mean, I could point out that maybe they could get a shuttle and beam a bomb into engineering that would only impact those tubes, or use shuttles in some other way, but they won't be going down that route. Transporters on the Enterprise would be locked out due to the computer, so we can't be using those. I know it's been brought up by everyone, but the design of engineering is horrifically bad. You put tubes that can kill all organic life right next to the warp core. I mean, I'd be against this even if it was made out of the heaviest alloys God could invent. And apparently they decided not to use those alloys because a phaser bolt or android can pierce through it like it's made of butter. So I don't think that they should really at any point have these tubes where they're located. It's extremely flawed. I'm not even convinced why any in Starfleet would do this. It is an instant death sentence. I know you'd be giving your life to save the rest of the ship. Okay, but how do we guarantee that all of these fumes won't get into the rest of the vessel itself? Maybe everyone's listening to it because it's a last-ditch effort, a Hail Mary, which would lead to the overall arc of Picard's PTSD, him not letting go. But honestly, people go along with it way too easily for it to be really connected to that, in my opinion. Picard is shown to be excessively unreasonable, but the people here follow him like this is a good plan. Maybe they trust him so much that they go along with it, but then that would make them idiots, which means Starfleet doesn't really train the most intelligent officers. You guys in the audience who are going to be commenting can pick a lane, but it has to be one or the other. Can't be both. Additionally, I'm not going to nitpick Worf not knowing that the Borg can't survive without their organic components. It's a movie that's trying to at least be halfway standalone. Worf's dialogue was meant for the audience who wouldn't know how the Borg interact. They probably could have used an extra to do this, but that's just more money they have to pay. Worf states that they will have up to 12 shots with remodulations, and that's it.
I have ordered all weapons to be set on a rotating modulation. The Borg will adapt quickly. We will be able to fire 12 shots at most.
Well, that was disappointing. Good try, Worf.
One other thing. You may encounter Enterprise crew members who've already been assimilated. Don't hesitate to fire. Believe me, you'll be doing them a favor. Let's go.
This is a very chilling piece of the scene. Picard is reminding his crew and the audience that they aren't just killing Borg. They're killing friends. They're killing family. The Borg has turned the very crew of the Enterprise against them, and now they have to kill their friends. Now let's get back to some comedic relief. Something pretty cool about this scene that only movie nerds will care about is that if you look at the alcohol in the middle of the table, it is vibrating given how high the music is. I'd be very surprised if they actually had the music that loud at this point. It was probably added in post. So they're using a practical effect here, and that's harder than you think to do. I don't care if you don't care about this. I thought it was cool. Okay, one more nerd moment. Not only is he made to sound far away, but his voice only comes from one side. It makes you feel like he's further off than you think. Re-listen to it. You'll only hear him from one side. And to quote someone who's better at this than I am, you didn't notice that, but your brain did.
Who is this jerk? Who called me to turn off my music?
Will Riker? Zephram Cochrane.
Good friend of yours?
Yes.
Husband?
No.
Good. Now this, Deanna.
Deanna.
This is the good stuff.
Dr. Cochrane.
To the Phoenix. May she rest in peace. Okay. That wasn't so good.
Well, I think we have to tell him the truth.
If we tell the truth, the timeline...
Timeline! This is no time to argue about time. We don't have the time.
So I have to say, I love the acting here and the character of Riker. I think this was probably one of the best showings for him being a great military officer. He is clearly amused at Deanna and the state she is in, as well as being impressed with meeting the Zefram Cochrane, and he's relieved that the guy is alive. However, he does keep his composure and he continues to evaluate the situation. He's relaxed, but still in command. This guy really should be CEO of a ship, given how much of a professional he is. Deanna trying to be funny falls short for me. Her getting drunk during a critical mission is questionable, but I will buy that she did it to ensure that Zefram is who he says he is, even though a tricorder could have told her that. Then again, they do need to gain his trust, so we'll give it a pass.
What was I saying?
You're drunk.
I am not.
Yes, you are.
Look, he wouldn't even talk to me unless I had a drink with him. And then it took 3 shots of something called tequila just to find out he was the one we're looking for. And I've spent the last 20 minutes trying to keep his hands off me. So don't go criticizing my counseling techniques.
I will say this, I find it really interesting when actors and actresses become very high and mighty about things in 2020 and then you look at their previous work. Marina Sirtis has become very outspoken and very activist on things like this. So to see her acting where she makes light of a man trying to touch her sexually over and over, even though she doesn't want it, and it's done in a light meant to make it look funny, is just ironic. Now I know, people change their minds and that's fair enough, it's just interesting.
It's a primitive culture. I'm just trying to blend in.
You're blended, all right.
I already told him our cover story. He didn't believe me.
We are running out of time. Now, if we tell him the truth, do you think he'll be able to handle it?
If you're looking for my professional opinion as ship's counselor, he's nuts.
I'll be sure to note that in my log.
Yeah, not a lot to add here beyond don't meet your heroes. Deanna passing out was kind of funny, I'll admit, and it's a nice breather before we get into the real chilling stuff. Next time, we'll take a look at when Starfleet officers strike back. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.
Get out of my house. Okay, I'm going.